So just a few days ago, the NBA trade deadline happened, and by far the biggest trade of the season was done, which was James Harden being traded to the Philadelphia 76ers and Ben Simmons being traded to the Brooklyn Nets. This is one of the biggest trades of the year. It has potential to be one of the biggest trades in NBA history, and that has led me to make this video where I'll be discussing about how much better I think the Philadelphia 76ers got with this trade. But before we get into the video, I ask you to drop a like on this video as it does on my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want daily NBA content. Also, if you want to reach a goal of 3,000 subscribers. Also, drop a comment on this video as I do respond to all comments. And play that intro. But to start the video off, I think we have to talk about what the 76ers gave up in this trade. What they had to give up was Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, 2 first-round picks. And first of all, the biggest thing they're giving up is their former #1 overall pick in Ben Simmons. He was a guy who was playing like an all-star for most of his career. He had some faults, but he was still an all-star level guy. If we're being honest, it was pretty obvious that Ben Simmons was probably never going to play another game for the Philadelphia 76ers. But I'm not going to lie, if a week ago you told me Ben Simmons could get traded for James Harden, I would have called you crazy. But it actually did happen. Him getting rid of Simmons isn't as big of a deal as it would have been if he was actually playing and willing to play with them, because he simply was not going to play for them ever again. And even if he was going to play for them again, he probably wasn't going to play motivated. So trading him is not as big of a deal. But at the end of the day, Simmons is still a really good player. He's a top 10 point guard. He's a guy who has potential to be a top 10 player in the league. He's an all-star, but he simply wasn't going to play for you again. So I don't think getting rid of him is a humongous deal, because in return, you're getting a superstar, and that's definitely good value. They also gave up Seth Curry, and I'm not going to lie, losing Seth Curry is kind of a big deal, because Seth was actually playing for you, and he wanted to be there. He's probably the 3rd best player this season. He's one of the 10 best shooters in the league. He improved his game to be a guy who can shoot off the dribble and hit difficult shots. He's also just an amazing floor spacer. He's a big part of this team. He draws a lot of attention from the defense, and losing him is not going to be amazing. But at the same time, you are going to be getting a superstar player in return. So it's kind of obvious you're going to have to lose some important players. So I think losing him is not ideal, but it had to be done. Getting rid of Andre Drummond, who at times looked like an amazing backup center, is not really like a huge loss, because you can always get another guy like him for around the same amount of money. But giving up 2 first-round picks in the future are very valuable assets. But it's not as bad when you realize that the 76ers are at least going to be good for hopefully the next 3 to 5 years. And that means these lottery picks likely will be in the lottery, won't be in the lottery, And also, James Harden and Joel Embiid have been getting injured a lot as of late, so maybe those picks can turn out to be top 10 picks because they get injured and they're not as good. But simply, I wouldn't bet on it right now. But when you look at what they lost Ben Simmons, who they were gonna have to trade. They lost Seth Curry, who is important, but it's not like he's a superstar or anything. He's a role player. And they also lost Andre Drummond, who was just a solid backup big man. And they also lost 2 first-round picks that probably aren't even gonna be lottery picks, for a superstar and James Harden, and a guy in Paul Millsap who could potentially help you. I honestly don't think they lost too much, because if you remember back in the offseason, a lot of the rumors for Ben Simmons being traded was for the Sixers to trade Ben Simmons for CJ McCollum, who at this point probably isn't even a top 10 shooting guard in the league. And now they just traded Ben Simmons for James Harden, who is the best shooting guard in the league, and they didn't have to give up Matisse Thybulle or Tyrese Maxey. Even in the summer, Ben Simmons was rumored to get traded for Damian Lillard, and they got a better player without giving up their 2 young core pieces. I'm not even that impressed, but just because I think Philadelphia gained a W in this trade doesn't mean I think Brooklyn lost the trade. Now to talk about what Brooklyn got in this move, and to be honest, they got back James Harden and Paul Millsap. And first of all, I want to quickly say I think Paul Millsap could potentially play better than he did in Brooklyn. It's not hard to. He was absolutely horrible, but I don't think overall he's going to be a huge piece to the trade. James Harden is obviously the centerpiece of this move, and I know James Harden has got a lot of hate from people, with people saying he's washed up, people saying he's overrated. But even though he's having his lowest scoring season in the last last 7 or 8 years, he's still putting up top 10 player in the league numbers. That's just how great he is. He's literally averaging 22 points, 8 rebounds, and 10 assists, although he's not doing it on good efficiency. And I don't mean he's not doing it on good efficiency for James Harden standards. For league standards, he's actually been really inefficient this year, but regardless, he's still a good player. He impacts the game a lot, and I honestly don't feel like he wanted to be in Brooklyn because he just was not given any effort at times. He wasn't being aggressive. He was having a lot of those games where he just never was trying, and he rarely had a game where he like took the game over like he used to do in Houston. He was being really passive, turning the ball over at a crazy level, even more than Russell Westbrook. I feel like now in Philadelphia, he's gonna be on a team that he clearly wants to go to and play for, so he's gonna be giving his full effort, and we're gonna see James Harden play some of the best basketball he has in the last 2 years. Honestly, the main reason I think he's gonna fit so well in Philadelphia is because now he's gonna know exactly what his role is, because in Brooklyn he was trying way too hard to be a crazy facilitator with Kyrie on the court, but now Harden knows he's gonna be a guy who just needs to score and a guy who knows who can feed the ball to Joel Embiid. If we're being honest, the James Harden and Joel Embiid pick and roll might be the hardest thing to stop in basketball, maybe besides a LeBron James and Anthony Davis pick and roll with spacing. This is just going to be a way better team now. They have an elite shot creator outside of the team outside of Joel Embiid and Tobias Harris. Now they have another superstar on this team. They probably have the best duo in the NBA, and now they're the only team in the Eastern Conference with 2 top 10 players in the league on one team. That's a huge advantage, and honestly, I think it's a huge W, because if we're thinking about what Ben Simmons was rumored to get traded for in the summer, he was rumored to get traded for guys like CJ McCollum, and that was like viewed as like the best case scenario. But now they're literally trading him for James Harden, and yes, I know other pieces are in the trade, but outside of Seth Curry, I don't think none of these moves will affect them right now or maybe within the next few years. Joel Embiid is a superstar that has not been really healthy, but over the course of his career, he's still been a top 10 player, and I think this team is honestly good enough to win a championship. Before, without Ben Simmons playing, I didn't think they could win the championship, but you have to realize that right now, if they didn't make this trade, they were wasting prime years of Joel Embiid's career. You can't have him on a roster that doesn't even at least have a chance to win the championship, and they just did that. So that's definitely a huge W, and I think they now made themselves real legit title contenders. I would say at this point, they're like the second or third most likely team to make it out the Eastern Conference, but we have to see how they play alongside each other. But honestly, I think both teams walked out with a W. Anyways, guys, that's it for the video. Let me know who you think won the trade. Drop a like on this video to help my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want daily NBA content. Also, if you want to go over 3,000 subscribers, also drop a comment on this video, as I do respond to all